Welcome to another Pixelated Audio Expansion Pack. Let's get things started.
Welcome back to another episode of Pixelated Audio. This is an expansion pack episode. We are your host. I'm Brian.
And I'm James, and today we have another eclectic mix of tracks for you today.
The track you just heard was called Stage 2 from a game called Section Z. And this was an NES and a Famicom Disk System game that came out in 1987 and also originally came out in 1985 in the arcade.
Nice. It was a really cool track. I love the layering of notes. There's just, it's really high register, like it's very like chirpy noise, and this really cool beat underneath, and just so many cool notes just layered together and just really driving you forward.
Yeah, it's got this dissonant sound that kind of comes in before like it goes back into its loop, and it's really weird because it almost like it changes time signatures or something. Mm-hmm. It's very, it's like, it's really awkward, but at the same time, it's like, wow, dude, that's rad.
Yeah, it's like, to me, it had like a siren effect to it. And I was asking you about that. I was like, what would you say this is? Like, and it's just, I don't know. It's just it's really cool. I haven't really heard something like that in a track before. And,
yeah.
And it's just really neat.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I when I picked this track out, I was looking at, I found, so in our last expansion pack, I was looking at some stuff for like Formation Z, mm-hmm. and I also saw this called Section Z, and I was like,
you kind of confused me a little bit there.
Yeah, so I was just like, all right, let me see what this has got, and I hit this track, and I was like, oh man, this is pretty weird, but mm-hmm. like rad at the same time. This is another Capcom game, developed and published both by Capcom. And it's composed by Kumi Yamaga. You would know her stuff mostly from 1943. She didn't do a ton of stuff, mm-hmm. but there is 1943 in the arcade and the NES port, as well as 1943 Kai for the arcade.
Okay.
And the other composer is Tamayo Kawamoto, who is one of the original composers at Capcom, but left in the 90s to go over to Taito and do mm-hmm. work. So she did a composition for Commando on the NES. So you probably know a lot of music from that. I know that me and you have talked about that track or right. that game before, as well as Sun, Legendary Wings, Avengers, Forgotten Worlds, Last Duel, and also Ghouls and Ghosts for the arcade. So a lot of different stuff, a lot of really classic Capcom sounds
right.
built in, kind of caked into the soundtrack. I mean, this is obviously 1987, so very early on, but mm-hmm. There's a lot of really cool stuff that we see kind of later come to fruition in later games. I think a lot of that early Capcom sound is very prevalent in later soundtracks. I think it's really rad.
I mean, they definitely build upon their history. I mean, their long history of games and their great sound, and I mean even their franchises. They really build upon that base foundation that they started back in those days, and really the very early chiptune stuff I think is so great across a lot of different companies. They had such limitations, and they created such creative sounds with those limitations, and I think a lot of modern composers and modern soundtracks and games that have a long history, they build upon that sound, and they can tap into that nostalgia and stuff like that as well.
Right. The game itself is a side-scrolling shooter, and you play as a space marine, I guess, to infiltrate and destroy a space station orbiting around Earth. It's actually like a secret base of an alien empire. And in the arcade version, Section Z actually refers to the last level because there's 26 levels in the game, A through Z. But in the NES version, it's really weird because there's 60 stages. So yeah, so I don't know. It doesn't have the same feel to it,
right?
But
because it's not even like a double of 26.
No, it's really awkward. But I mean, it's the same game. So the game itself is like I said, it's a side-scrolling shooter, and you play as this kind of marine that flies around. It's kind of like any typical shooter kind of thing, except one button is the shoot button, like the actual action button, and the other button flips your aim. So, like if you're shooting forward, you hit the B button or A button. I'm not sure exactly which button it is, but it flips you around and you shoot the other way.
Oh, wow.
Because you have enemies coming from both sides of the screen as you're progressing to the right.
I've always thought that was very dynamic when I would see side-scrolling shooters that utilize the attacks from the front and the back, and that there really made me excited to learn more about that game.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty cool game. Like I didn't grow up with this. The Famicom disc system version actually had saves, so you could save to the disc. However, in the NES version that we got here in the States, there were no saves, so you had to play through it in one sitting.
No passwords?
I don't believe so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of like, 60 levels of intensity. Have fun.
Yeah, and usually once they make the attacks coming from the front and back, it starts getting really complex. So that would be a very tough one. I think you'd have to spend a lot of time with to get to the end.
Right. Anyways, what's next on your list, dude?
So for my first track, I'm going to go with Werewolf, The Last Warrior.
Awesome.
And I was very excited about this when I picked it. The track is called Stage Theme Werewolf.
Awesome. Let's get that going.
That was Stage Theme Werewolf from Werewolf, The Last Warrior on the NES.
Wow, that was so sick. I love that soundtrack so much.
Yeah.
I know nothing about the game. Nothing at all. But we listened to this actually a few months ago, and we were just like, wow, like, what is this? Because we were talking about the box art too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the box art is really cool. It's got it's kind of like a yellow background, and then there's like a werewolf ripping through it. And I missed a lot of NES games growing up, so I was like, I heard this soundtrack and I was like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, Brian, do you know anything about this game? And of course, you have heard of it.
I had heard of it, but I don't know. I know nothing about it.
I mean, it's just like werewolves, and it's just really cool. So. I looked into it, really loved a lot of the music from this soundtrack.
This song itself it's just so cool because it has so many different things. It's got like reverbs and echoes and delays, and then it's got that weird rising like kind of sound, and then it like bursts at you with a bunch of other sound. It's really rad.
Yeah, I thought this track was a perfect example of utilizing the NES sound to just all the different types of sounds. I mean, it's got all those high chirpy notes. It's got a really cool low bass notes and things like that. So this game was developed by SAS Sakata and published by Data East.
Very cool.
Which is, cool. Daddy East had some really great games with some really good music. The composers for this game were Shogo Sakai and Yusuke Takahama, which they have some really cool games to their name.
Right.
Sakai had mostly, it seemed like, worked in the arcade versions of NES games.
So ports to NES from arcade stuff.
Right. I think I said that backwards there, but yeah, so you got it right. And he did some original soundtracks as well, but some of his big things were Rampage, Bad Dudes, RoboCop on the NES.
Excellent.
And then he did some stuff on, TurboGrafx 16, Genesis, GameCube, Game Boy Advance, DS, Wii. I mean, a huge variety of systems that he's worked on.
He's been all over the place.
Yeah, and I believe he's actually still making music now, so that's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
And then Yusuke Takahama has done soundtracks for Bad Dudes.
Okay.
Which I thought was really cool. That's a pretty fun game. Then they did stuff like Kickmaster.
Yusuke, right?
Yusuke, yeah.
Right, okay.
Did things like Kickmaster for the NES, Dark Lord for the Famicom, and he has done stuff for like Sonic Colors, Mario and Sonic the Winter Olympics, both for the DS. Which is really cool. So,
yeah, I like. It's funny because a lot of people are like, those Mario and Sonic games are, whatever the Olympic games are
right.
Meh.
Yeah, I could pass on those.
It's funny because me and my friend Dusty, like we used to like really get into those. Like, hey, how many like trampoline jumps could you do, man?
Right.
And now that I look back, I'm like, yeah, that was a pretty crappy game, but like we liked it. Like,
well, and we've mentioned those type of games quite a few times on here. I know we've mentioned the console versions at least. So and then to hear that he did all the DS stuff, which is really cool.
I never played the DS version of that game either, though. So
yeah. So I mean, I would assume from the music that we're just hearing now from Werewolf: The Last Warrior that it's probably some pretty rad stuff.
Yeah. So I know nothing about this game actually. So do you have any info on it?
Yeah. So this was a single player platformer from 1990. It's in Japan. It's known as Super Werewolf Chronicle Warwolf. So the character that you play as,
because they like to shorten stuff.
Yeah. So in the character that you play as is a guy that can turn into a werewolf, and his name is Werewolf, is Warwolf. So the premise of the game.
Did they not like think of anything else creative? They were just like
Warwolf, Werewolf. It's
all right.
Yeah, I would assume he probably could have had a different name, but
we don't have time to come up with anything else. Let's just do this so we can.
And it's probably not stated in the game anywhere. It's probably just you have to read the booklet to find that out. Even
right.
So the basic premise of the game is that it takes place on Red Earth, which is Earth's second colony. So in this game, it's kind of set a little bit in the future where we've colonized another planet.
Okay.
Which I thought was kind of interesting.
That's kind of interesting for like a werewolf theme.
Right. So,
because typically werewolf you would see in like some maybe old school London or like maybe new age thing, but not really like future kind of stuff.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's pretty rad.
Basically, a Dr. Farian goes into a cave and accidentally awakens this ancient evil, which possesses him, which, that's not terribly creative, but it sets up the whole story with him creating all these evil mutants and kind of taking over, and then naturally Earth's only hope is in the hands of a werewolf. So it sounds kind of cool.
Okay.
It seems like a pretty cool game. Awesome music. So
do you know anything about the gameplay?
Other than it being a side-scrolling platformer, I don't really know much about it. I didn't really look into it too deep for this episode.
Because in my mind, the only thing I can think of, maybe it's just like a werewolf thing, but I keep thinking like Altered Beast.
Yeah, no, that's
like all I'm thinking about right now, and I could be totally wrong.
Right. No, that was what I was thinking too.
One of you guys listening, please leave some comments and tell us about this game. I mean, I'll probably look it up after this, but I mean, still, I'm very curious if anybody else has played this, because I know nothing about it.
And I'm sure that we're probably going to do an episode on this. I mean, the soundtrack is phenomenal for this game.
It's so good. It's really good. Anyways, next up on my list, a pick that I have for us is a game called Android Assault: The Revenge of Bari-Arm. And the track I'm going to play is Zias Fleet 2. That was Zias Fleet 2 from Android Assault: The Revenge of Bari-Arm on the Sega CD, actually.
Wow, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was rad, but I mean, it's like a guitar solo like the whole way through the song.
No,
there's actually no melody, I think. It's just a guitar solo.
Yeah, it's very, very rock and roll.
Yeah, very like early, like, or late 70s, early 80s kind of rock and roll, heavy metal kind of shredding guitar. I thought it was a really awesome track.
No, I loved that it really broke up the chiptune-ness of it. So, I mean, it's a really cool thing. I love, 80s shredding metal music. So this is pretty awesome.
I mean, this is Red Book. So this is a Sega CD track. It came out in 1993 in Japan, 94 in the US. And in Japan, it's actually called just Bari-Arm. And so we don't have the whole Android Assault. So actually in the US, it's a longer name, which is kind of bizarre. But anyways, it was developed and published by Human Entertainment. In fact, in the US, it was actually published by a publisher called Big Fun Games, which I don't know a whole lot about them, but the game was composed by Nobuhiro Makino, and he was a composer working at Human at the time, and he doesn't have a big library of stuff that he's done, not a huge repertoire, but he's done like Mahojin Guru Guru 2 and Hyper Iria. Does it ring a bell? No, I don't know. But I listened to a few of the other tracks that he's done work on, and they were pretty cool. I mean, it's interesting because this is a Sega CD game. Obviously, it's got that CD audio quality, but the game itself is kind of ugly. Yeah, it's a side-scrolling shooter. It takes place in the future where mankind has started to colonize different planets, and one of the colonies gets attacked by this military nation called the Zias, which Zias Fleet 2 is the track we played, and they reside on Saturn. Anyways, the scientists create this weapon called the Bari-Arm, which is basically this huge mech that is able to kind of fight against the Zias, and that's what this is all about. I mean, the graphics, like I said, it's pretty meh, right? And it looks like a really ugly Sega Genesis game.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, like we said, like the track, the music is really cool.
Yeah, and we've seen that quite a few times already, that the game that maybe is not that fun to play that has insane music. So
well, see, I don't know if it's like a horrible game. I haven't played this myself, but I was watching a playthrough and I was like, oh god, man, this is it's like a facelift.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we can kind of discern from that unless we actually pop it in and play. So it might be something to kind of take a look at, but I mean, the music itself we can just enjoy is just something that's really really awesome.
Cool. And all these tracks are like really like thrashing like that. They're all really like heavy guitar solo. It almost, I get this Tommy Tallarico vibe to it.
I can see that
for some reason. And I don't know. I thought it was a cool track. I had it on. I popped it on random actually, and I was like, oh, all right, Sega CD, gotcha. Looked it up. Wow, this is horrible. I don't know. I could be wrong. There's probably like, I'm very, very sorry if there's one of you guys out there who's like, dude, that was like my favorite.
Yeah,
that was like all I did.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys a bad rating now.
Yeah. Anyways, what's next on your list?
And like you said, for me, I put all my tracks on random, and I kind of select my tracks randomly because I just, there's so much great stuff I can't really narrow things down. So this track popped up for me. It's from a game called Choujin Sentai Jetman, and the track is called Final Battle. You just heard Final Battle from Choujin Sentai Jetman on the Famicom.
Very cool track. I get this really Mega Man vibe.
I was thinking the same
thing. I
thing.
thought Mega Man the whole time through. In fact, when I was listening to it, I kept picturing Mega Man. So it probably didn't help like the rest of the track all the way through. I couldn't I couldn't deviate from that thought, but no, that was rad. That was really progressive, really rocking. I liked that.
Yeah, I got the same feeling that this was Mega Man. It kind of had a futuristic feel to me. Very up, tempo, very fast paced, triumphant, and very energized. I got very, very energized from listening to that track. This is a track from a composer called Hiroyuki Iwatsuki.
Very cool.
Yeah, and he's done some cool stuff. I had to actually look him up through the credits. I had to go watch the playthrough and find his name on the credits. Couldn't find it really anywhere else. Done really cool stuff for NES games like Shatterhand.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
I love Shatterhand. I love Shatterhand. The music for that too.
Yeah, and Mighty
you can
Morph.
Disagree with me if you like, but I like that.
No, Shatterhand is very
rad.
excellent. Also, games like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, as well as the movie version of the game and the fighting edition version of the game for the SNES.
Never played them.
Yeah. I mean, and when I explain the game a little bit more, you'll understand like the connection between that there.
All right.
But I also wanted to mention he did WWE Road to WrestleMania XB or X8 for the Game Boy Advance. So I mean, I love wrestling, so I had to throw a left
still
wrestling
waiting on
there.
this to see this connection, James.
So when this track first came up in random,
is this a Capcom game?
This is a Natsume developed game and published by Angel, which is a subsidiary of Bandai.
Okay, so that's okay. That was good to know because I kept thinking like Mega Man the whole time, and I was like, okay, maybe this is a Capcom game, and I'm just totally like, there's some influence in there, but it's Natsume. Okay.
Yeah, and the connection with Bandai becomes apparent when this is very Power Ranger. The look of the box art, it very much looks like Power Rangers, and to me, Power Rangers came out and I was a little bit too old for it. If I'm being honest with myself, I kind of wanted to get into Power Rangers.
I wanted to get into it too, but I was already out of that.
Well, most of the kids on the playgrounds were like, "Oh, I'm over Power Rangers." And I was like, I think I'm like the fourth grade. I'm like, I guess I'm too cool for Power Rangers. And all my brothers were really into Power Rangers, so it looks very Power Rangers. And so when I looked this up, this game is a single-player side-scrolling action platformer, and it's based on the Super Sentai TV series, which the Power Rangers is also based on.
It's funny because we say Power Rangers here, which is what we know as those kind of spandex suits, right? Doing like the weird hand movements and stuff. In Japan, there's like a million different versions of Power Ranger look-alike kind of things. Like they've had them for years. I mean, Ultraman is probably one of the older ones, and they have a million shows that are like exactly like Power Rangers. Yeah, we just happen to get the Power Rangers fight scenes brought over here and kind of put into our own series, but.
Right, and I mean, when you look at the box art, it not only looks like the Power Rangers as far as the suits. They have the same color scheme, same helmet and spandex suit thing, but they also have the giant mechs. And one thing that I thought was really, really cool about this game is you progress through the level as the character that you choose. You can choose between all the different colors. So it's like red, blue, black, pink, yellow, and which is the same as the
Can you play as Tommy?
No, he's not. There's no Green Ranger. Unfortunately, he was my favorite too. Right. So you pick your color. And you progress through the level, and then at the end, instead of the fighting as your character in the boss, you hop in your team's mech and you fight a giant animal or giant monster in your mech. So the mech fight is the boss fight. So I thought that was so cool that it's like you progress through as just a single player. And for the boss, you hop in the giant robot.
And then let my monsters grow.
Yeah, like there's a cutscene that
Rita
shows...
throws her... it was Rita, right?
Yeah, from the Power Rangers, yeah.
She throws her staff down.
Yeah.
And then now you're
and like Lord Zed.
Now you're super Choujin Sentai.
Yeah, and so there's like this cutscene that the robot starts being built, and then you fight this monster, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like to switch it up,
pretty rad.
So where it's not like just jump around as your little player, but I guess all the boss fights you fight in your team's mech, which is really cool.
Very Japanese too.
And it looks like a really fun game too. Like the controls, you have like your attack, you can do like an up kick and things like that. So,
but it makes sense it was only on the Famicom.
Right.
I can't see like if we didn't have some kind of TV series or something like that here that people could like associate it with, it would never catch on.
Right. Right. So I mean, like I said, they have a lot of series that are based on this Super Sentai TV series, which I guess was a very short. I think it was like a season. Like I guess here it would be a single season, like 12 episodes or something like that. So and it spawned all these different
toys,
like
and
and then offshoot series. People are like, wow, I really like this formula for a show, and I mean, it was really cool, and it sounded like a really fun game. Like, and it was more dark, I'm guessing, than Power Rangers. There was people that were dying and love interests and stuff like that in this game. So, or in this TV series. So it was slightly darker than the what came to the US.
Made for not only kids but also adults.
Right.
Awesome. Anyways, the next track that we have to play. This is actually our last track, and it's a track called Jungle.
It's not our last track.
Oh, it's not our last track.
Yeah.
Oh,
this is your last track.
This is my last track.
Yeah.
All right. So this is my last track, and it's called Jungle from BC Racers on the Sega 32X. Let's get that started. Just heard Jungle from BC Racers on the Sega 32X.
Wow. That track is very different.
It was cool, right?
Very cool. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
It was really rad. That brass, that kind of, when I was listening to it, first reminded me of like being at like a high school football game and hearing like the
band,
the band playing like during like intermissions and stuff, like just doing some kind of like goofy kind of thing while like the mascots running across.
Yeah,
the
like
field.
that horn, like it. I could definitely see that.
Yeah, it's a cool track. I thought it was pretty cool. Jungle. I don't know what that has to do with. I don't. This doesn't sound jungle to me, but I don't know really what does. The only thing maybe that sounds jungle is like Donkey Kong music now, because that's like kind of a given. But the game was developed and published by Core Design, and Core did tons of different games. The composer is Nathan McCree, and he mainly worked for Core, but he also did a ton of like audio work in TV. He did live events, radio shows, all sorts of stuff. He's best known though for Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3.
Oh wow!
He did all the music for the Tomb Raider games on PlayStation, or in PC, whatever they reported to. He also did a lot of stuff for Asterix games, not the original, but other Asterix games, which all had really great music. He did Silent Hill Downpour.
Wow, that was a very recent one.
Yeah, and Chuck Rock 2, Son of Chuck.
Wow, that's pretty cool
just
too.
A myriad of different things. The game itself, BC Racers. It's funny. I have this actual cartridge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I have it. I mean, I think I got it like from my friend. He was selling like a bunch of like weird systems, and he happened to have like a ton of 32X games. Well, when I say a ton, I mean like how many they have, like 12.
Right.
So I have like I probably have like 75% of like the 32X games that ever came out. And this is one that I actually popped on, and I thought was actually pretty good. I was surprised, like when I played it. This was it came out in 1995, but originally came out on the Sega CD. And I'm talking about the 32X version here because this is what the music's from. The Sega CD version came out in 94, and the game itself is a lot like Mario Kart, but has this prehistoric kind of caveman theme to it. I guess so. It's an all right game. Like it's kind of got that Mode 7 feel to it, like Mario Kart, where you're kind of the whole world is kind of shifting around. It is kind of ugly, but I mean, looking back at like Mario Kart, the original one, now that's ugly too. The game itself, I also have the Sega CD version, and I'm not like proud to say that I have both the 32X and the Sega CD version. I have the Sega CD version because I think there was like a Blockbuster going out of business or something, and they were selling tons of stuff, and I picked up that copy. And it was funny because I was actually looking when I found this track. I was like, I should just go look and see if I actually own this cartridge. And I found the Sega CD version first, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, man, I didn't even remember I had this. But no, the game is kind of cool. And what makes it kind of different than Mario Kart is that in Mario Kart you can hit people with like shells and stuff like that, and kind of cause them to spin out while you race. But this is a racing game like Mario Kart, but your cart or your bike or your vehicle, or whatever you're riding, actually takes damage to the point where if you take too much damage, your cart blows up and you have to start over.
Oh, okay.
So it's like got this kind of destruction value to it.
It's got a little F-Zero to it.
Exactly. And to where like you can't continue actually the race. You actually have to end and start over. You lose a life. So
wow.
It is actually a cool game. It's actually a game that, now that I'm thinking about it, I think we should play together. I think.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really, really unique as far as a lot of the way racing games are handled. It, have lives and stuff like that. Sounds pretty cool.
And it's cool. It's almost like if Bonk were to have a racing game after him.
They probably should have made a Bonk racing.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been kind of rad, right? I mean, they would have had like 3 characters, but still, like it's kind of got that Bonk feel to it. And I think it's I don't want to say it's like it's gonna succeed Mario Kart. I'm not gonna make that claim at all, but it is a pretty cool game that if you're into kart racers and stuff like that, and especially retro gaming, it's a game to check out. At least you might have some fun with it, like get together with a buddy and play like some 2-player and just goof around. It's a cool game,
right? And since you have the 32X version and the other one, so it would be really cool to just compare them, even to pop them both on and see how they compare. So
right. So anyways, what's next up on the list? I think this is our last track now, right?
Yeah, so this is going to be the last track for this
Sorry,
episode.
I jumped the gun earlier on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've actually played a track on an expansion pack from this game. We played it back, I believe, in Expansion Pack 2. It's a game called Nightshade for the PlayStation 2. And
I was going to say you can't do Formation Z because there was only one track. We already played that.
Yeah. So when we played that track, I was like, wow, this track is really cool from Expansion Pack 2. And it made me look into the game, and I came across a copy just randomly at a thrift store. So I picked it up and I popped it on and played it. And I was like,
I remember you text me and you were like, hey dude, I just picked up that game Nightshade for like $2 or something.
It was really cheap. And it's like kind of Shinobi offshoot type game where you play as a female ninja.
Right.
And I popped it on, I was playing, and I was like, this is actually, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a really decent looking PlayStation 2 game. It kind of holds up. It kind of has the crappy PlayStation 2 camera control stick, but they utilized all the buttons on the controller, which is really cool.
Because we were talking about that. I remember we were talking like we both never played it at that time, and we were like, man, this, it seems like it could work. Like there were some cool elements like in the playthroughs that we watched. So it's hard to say like until you actually play it yourself, because if you don't know how the controller feels, you can't really judge a game. You can't judge a game by visuals only. You have to know like every aspect of the sound, the control, everything. So
and when I was playing it, you had mentioned that there was kind of like a teleporting type thing where she can kind of move really rapidly forward, and
I think I saw that,
and it's cool. Like so you'll hit a button, and it's like your dash button. And what happens is there's like a silhouette, like a white silhouette of your character, and you're actually moving forward. So it's almost like time slows down, and it's so you can set up all these chain like kills. So you can time slows down, and you can kill like 4 or 5 enemies at once, and then there's like a slash through the screen and that shows like all of them die. So it's kind of like very old school movie. A lot of really like doing cool poses and then things blowing up. So
wow, that sounds pretty cool.
It was pretty fun. There's some emptiness in the levels, but it was. I actually thought it was kind of neat. It was a very interesting story. It ties in directly to the Shinobi series. With the lore and all that stuff, so I thought it was really interesting.
So it's a pretty good game, actually.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I think I paid like $1 for it, so it was totally worth. It's totally worth $1.
It's funny because Ed from Pixel Tunes Radio actually like sent me a message on Twitter, and he's like, "Oh man, I should pick up this game. That music is pretty awesome." And I was like, "Yeah, I've never played it. I don't know. Let me know what you think." But if Ed, check it out. Definitely buy it, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and I'm a big PlayStation 2 fan. For me, that was like one of the first consoles I bought with my own money.
And that was the highest selling system of like ever.
Yeah.
Right. That's the best system, best selling system ever. So
yeah, and I think this year I've like doubled my PlayStation 2 collection. So it was really cool to add this track. There's 4 composers on this game. I'm going to really butcher these names, so I want to see if you can kind of help me out with some of these.
All right, let me see. Hand me your list here. All right, so it's Fumie Kumatani, Tomonori Sawada, and Keiichi Sugiyama, and Yutaka Minobe.
Yeah, so it was really great soundtrack. The entire soundtrack is really good. I've listened to the whole thing while I've been doing work and stuff like that, and this track that I'm about to play for you guys for the final track really stood out to me as something really fun.
You can visit us online at pixelatedaudio.com. We're also on Twitter at pixelatedaudio and Instagram. So definitely check us out there. We, like to be interactive with you guys, and we'd appreciate any comments or feedback on the website.
So the track that we're going to play is from Nightshade called Moth, Hellspawn. So thanks for listening, and we hope to see you again.